I do believe that we will have a lot more money to handle, so it will be diluted by the fresh money that comes in and constantly considering how big the position should be. As I was explaining the investment, I mentioned that I believe we would make 20 times our money on 400 investments, of which the top 30 constitute roughly 56 to 57% of our assets. You may actually do pretty well as a long-term investor, yet most individuals find it difficult to outperform the stock markets. Investing in index funds and passive investing is something I advise people to do since it's a fantastic method to protect against inflation. All automobiles will eventually be electric, in my opinion, and this hybrid is really a kind of stopgap measure to spare automakers from having to lose money on the electric vehicles. However, I believe that electric vehicles will dominate the automotive industry in 10 to 15 years, and hybrids, I know you're a huge fan of hybrids, will also be obsolete. They're not going to be included in the mix because they're too costly and, well, not effective enough. It will be all electric, and this is what I believe will happen. The stock will decline for reasons other than the quarter. People were worried that he would give up on having a cheap automobile and switch to robot taxis, which is, I believe, why the stock is down. The stock is down because of this. And then there was a word that he was canceling this new plant that was intended to produce robot cars, according to Reuters. He will produce inexpensive cars that cost $25,000, and he will face competition from China. There is only one profitable firm in China, by the way, and that is BYD, not the Warren Buffett Company. That company makes $1 billion per quarter, whereas our company makes $4 billion. Ford loses a lot of money. Nobody else makes any. Everyone loses money on this, including General Motors. Making these autos is far more difficult. It's strange, because I was discussing motors yesterday. Therefore, a car's motors cost $5,000. The typical cost of these 100-year-old businesses is $5,000. For $1,000, we can create a motor. Cars with internal combustion engines are what you're producing. I'm merely referring to how firms become stagnant and accustomed to doing things the same way they always have, to the point where they don't seek out new activities or methods to operate that are focused on cutting costs. He can complete tasks that cost others $5,000 for just $1,000. It's incredible. That is, whether he desired to start a gasoline-powered or electric vehicle company. All I'm saying is that people become, ingrained in their habits and stop always trying to make things better, cheaper, and faster. There's no reason to do so. Warren Ayer says, I'll show you how people behave if you show me the incentives. And that's the idea. What's the incentive for you, people or incentives? The premise is that the stock is down because of someone who we need to get off of this. As a result, they are entering the market for robot taxis and creating the inexpensive vehicle. Therefore, they are producing the inexpensive car, but they are doing so because they currently have extra capacity. They can produce 3 million cars annually. Although they won't be able to make the cars as cheaply as they used to, they can still produce an additional 1.2 million cars in an existing facility with no additional capital, and they anticipate producing 5 million of these new cars total. Oh, it will rise and this is the bottom, We have an advantage over Tesla at the moment because they have sold 6 million cars and have 3.5 or 4 million automobiles that are gathering data. Therefore, the most valuable thing is the data. Their computing capacity is being doubled. Ron, would you like to see how we've made unbelievable advances? They asked me after I visited Tesla and spent time with the compute and autonomous driving teams. In order to code every single event that occurred, the first 11 versions had to be created. They weren't making any headway for 2 or 3 years because it was impossible. They had reached a standstill. Now that version 12 has arrived, they have access to a vast amount of data and can use computation to determine what people are incapable of. You are now on the verge of having your car drive itself as they have computed everything. The same thing will be said by anybody who owns one of these Model 3s. The quality, which continues getting better and better, is astounding. What happens is that you don't have You see, you have to make sure everything runs right, and so they're not. They're not making 97% yet, but their percentage is increasing steadily. When you see those cars sitting around, that's going to make them really fast, and they're early on the ramp-up. Extraordinary to what Tesla has achieved. Extraordinary on SP on Tesla. 8 million vehicles annually. The company was producing 41,000 automobiles annually when we began investing in it 7 years ago, between 2014 and 2016. Thus, from 41,000 vehicles annually to 1.8 million, they are headed toward 20 million vehicles. Of its 2 million, China currently has roughly a million. However, a significant portion of their output is shipped to Europe from China, and naturally, the more they construct in Europe, the more they will save on taxes and transportation expenses. The idea is that China invited Musk because the Chinese automakers have been struggling for a while and were promised that he would help them improve his automakers and build a local supply chain. As a result, he is the only person who has ever been invited to China who has been able to run their business without a local partner. Therefore, I firmly believe that they operate effectively in China. In fact, the person who oversees their Chinese company, the Tesla company in Austin, is most likely destined to hold a significant position at Tesla as a whole. He is Chinese now, and he was transported to Texas from China, where he manages the company. He will oversee all aspects of the automotive industry. Therefore, I believe they have very positive connections with China. I believe the company will continue to flourish because both parties are benefiting from it. However, he plans to open factories for low-cost cars all over the world. You can only imagine what will happen when they suddenly start selling cars for $25,000 each instead of $40,000 each, which will happen within the next year or year and a half due to their new model. They estimate that the new model will produce 5 million cars annually. And we've already cashed in around $1.5 billion, making roughly $4 billion. 3 years ago, we sold 6.8 million shares for clients for $225 a share, which was up 15 or 20 times. Now, we have 17.5 million shares, and I predict that we will make 6 or 7 times as much. The stock is currently, I believe, $225, $230, and $250. In 2025, I predict it will be $500, and in 2030, I predict it will be $1,500. However, I personally hold 5 million shares of Tesla. I purchased it after all of my clients had purchased their stock. I also informed the board of our mutual fund that I was no longer going to purchase stock for myself. I will only make investments in private fields and our funds. However, I believe we will make 20 times our money in this case. I would like to contribute $50 million, and Baron Capital will have more financial strength if it works out. I can afford to lose it if it doesn't. I answered, well, if you approve this, I'll be the last person to buy. It wouldn't be pleasant, but I'll take the chance. I don't take advantage of anyone. I made an unsuccessful attempt to persuade everyone else to buy. I am the final person to purchase, and I will also be the last one to sell. Until I sell for all of my clients, I won't sell a single share for myself. Last in, last out. As a result, I purchased stock for clients, and we sold roughly 25% of it. I haven't sold any shares myself. I've taken great effort to explain to people about the clients and the funds who actually own this stock. Occasionally, clients call and say, it's a little bit, too much for me. Could you make a little sale? I'll do anything they ask me to do, and I told them that I believe you're going to double from these levels in the next 3 years, and then you're going to make, to a triple again. You can. Because I believe that over the following 7 or 8 years, you will earn 7 times your money. 94% of cars are still not electric, with only 6% of them being electric. Additionally, 1% of the 2 billion cars in the fleet are electric, meaning there is a significant scope for expansion. First and foremost, the charging stations are a significant thing since everyone will now be aware that they can charge their cars anywhere. Another item that only aids in the purchase of automobiles is insurance. According to Tesla's return on investment, most businesses see a 15% return on capital when they invest. That's the goal. Unless they can generate a 15% return on equity, investment, and capital, they will not invest. Well, when Tesla was turning a $155,000 profit year, they invested $7 billion to build a plant that would provide a $115,000 profit annually. On it, they're earning $15 billion. The firm is 3 times larger, yet the price is the same as it was 3 years before. The company is now 3 times larger. This year, they are expected to do 1 million or 2 million cars. They were working on 500,000 autos 3 years ago. When I sold our 6.8 million shares, the price was essentially the same as it was 3 years prior, despite the fact that the company had now grown threefold. I have no idea if it's going to be higher or lower in the short term, a man might say. Last week,